This story is posted by WaterKitty28 and it's called Entitled Uncle Tries to Steal Our Money. Just a little background before I start my story. My grandpa, 91, was sick for a long time and he eventually died. He was a pretty rich man and was planning on giving my grandma most of his money. The rest of it went to his 3 kids, my dad, aunt and uncle, and me and my 2 sisters. My uncle is so obsessed with money and goes so far out of his way to save the slightest penny. He has never had a real job, except for being in the military for 15 years. OP, I think that is a real job. 15 years in the military? Yeah, that's a real job. My aunt has also never had a job, but she made money by helping grandma with shopping, yard work, etc. She can't really leave the house since she has a bad hip. Out of their 3 kids, my dad is the only one who got married and had kids. My aunt and uncle still live near my grandma's house, which is still in their hometown. Now, to start the story. I was 10 at the time and my sisters, twins, were 12. We had just gotten the news of Grandpa's death and we're all very torn up over it. His funeral was 1 week later, and that is where we saw entitled uncle walking towards my dad, waving a pile of papers. My uncle came to my dad and said, "Hey, can you sign these? I already got aunt to sign them, so I only need your signature." My aunt is the youngest of the 3, and she's kind of a pushover. If uncle asked her to do something, she would do it, without question. My dad said, "Why would I sign those?" Uncle said, "It's to give grandpa's money to me. Your daughters don't need it for anything anyway." "Of course I won't sign those. My daughters aren't even going to use the money now. They will get it when they turn 21, and they'll definitely use it then. Why do you need the money anyway? What grandpa gave to you was more than enough." My uncle said, "Ha, you're useless. Your daughters would just waste his money. They don't deserve it." And after throwing a bunch of insults at Dad, he stormed off and left the funeral. A few hours later, my family went to visit Grandma's house to comfort her after the loss of her husband. And lo and behold, Uncle's there, making Grandma sign papers to turn over her share of the money. I didn't hear much of the conversation after that, since my dad made us leave the room. But all I know is there was a lot of yelling and cursing. About 30 minutes later, my mum told us to get in the car. We were going home. My uncle didn't really bring up the topic for a while, but I started to notice something odd. He started showing up to me and my sister's school events, swim meets, birthday parties, and he lives about an hour and a half away from us, and he could never be bothered to take the trip to come and visit us before, which is why I found it strange. Later, I learned he was doing this to try and get us on his side, so that we would convince Dad to sign the papers to turn over our money to him. I didn't really think about it at the time, but now I realise how desperate he was being. Like, why would you try to guilt trip your 11 and 13-year-old nieces, who didn't understand what was going on, to give up money that was going to be theirs in the future? And when I think about it more, why does he even need our money? He already has aunt's and grandma's money on top of his own. So, why did he think that he was so entitled and that he needed all of Grandpa's money? Anyway, Dad figured out Uncle's plan and asked him to stop coming to see us, because it wasn't going to work. A few months later, Dad learns that Uncle was taking him to court to try and get Dad's money along with mine and my sister's. I don't know all of the details, since I was only 11 at the time, but I could tell Dad was furious. I didn't actually see the court case, but I know that Uncle lost, and my mum told me that he was also forced to return the money to Aunt and to Grandma too. Defeated, he had no choice but to stop asking us for money, or at least I thought so. Years after the court case, my uncle started asking for money again, but this time he was asking my sisters to sign the papers. Dad told us that if we were ever asked by our uncle to give him our money, just to say no. So that's what we did. I could tell Uncle wasn't expecting that. I think he thought that we had no idea what the papers were for, and that we would do anything he told us. But he was sorely mistaken. My sisters might not look smart, but they were able to see right through him. After that, we never saw Uncle again. He probably knew that if he asked me, I would have said no. My grandpa gave me the money, and I wasn't planning on giving it away to someone who didn't even need it. I'm about to be old enough to inherit the money. and I plan to put it to good use. Reading through the comments, now, a lot of people have pulled up OP on the fact that spending 15 years in the military, that's definitely a real job. Adam Skeeter said, I love the idea of him going to court, all self-righteous, that he deserves you and your sister's money, then the judge orders him to return all the other money he scammed, and now he's got the court costs on top of that. Yeah, that's certainly a bit of a karma moment for him, alright. Sweets3579 says, some people can just never be satisfied. Yeah, for some people it just doesn't matter how much money they've got, they just always want more. To Foxtrot86 says, your uncle was a real piece of work. I'm guessing he was either in debt or just plain greedy. Either way, I'm glad he didn't get what he wanted. Yeah, I agree. Like literally, if your dad dies but your mum's still alive, and your brother and your sister, and in this case, your brother's children, and your dad had left a will that he wanted these people to all have an equal share of the money, what gives you the right, the audacity to expect that you should have all of it? What man goes to his mother, who has survived her husband, your father in this case, and says, I need you to sign over all the money that dad left you. You need to sign it over to me. And she does. And then goes to his sister and says the same thing. And she does. And somehow expects that his brother is going to do the same and their kids are going to do the same? What are your thoughts? Should a will even be able to be contested? I've always had the opinion that if somebody writes a will, that should be it. I would like to think that in my will, my instructions are carried out to a T. It's my will. It's what I want to happen when I die. The thought that a judge or a person could overrule that? Oh no, we know that he wanted this and he wanted that, but we know better than that. Why even have a will? Amex231 says, my grandpa passed a couple of years ago. His kids fought over his money. Though by rights, most, if not all, should have gone to my grandma, his wife of 50 years. They are now fighting over my grandma's money in front of her. One aunt asked me to buy her a house. I just turned 30 and I don't have my own house yet. Apparently, I should take out a mortgage for her first, I guess. Family. It is what it is sometimes. Yeah, let me know in the comments if you know some horror stories. I know plenty. And I'm talking about horror stories when somebody dies and then there's just this huge fight between the family members over who's going to get the money or who thinks they should have the money. You certainly see people's true colours when money's involved.